Good day, everyone. Welcome to another installment of the Business World one-on-one interview series. I'm Cap Maceda Aguila, editor of Business World's Velocity section, and our general theme is moving forward in the pandemic's turns and shifts. We'd like to thank Toyota Motor Philippines Corporation and Hyundai Asia Resources Incorporated for sponsoring these several automotive sessions. Our gratitude too to MG Philippines and Honda Cars Philippines Incorporated for supporting our print issue. Thanks also to our media partner, the Philippine STAR. Now, during our first session, we talked about how the pandemic, which essentially began last year, waylaid most sectors, the automobile industry among them. And we also discussed how things got from bad to worse to better for our local car companies. And today we're going to tackle how to get from here to there, and there being a renewed and robust industry. But we're also going to do some fortune telling, if you will. How will the auto industry look like in the near or even medium term? What can we expect in a new era, which is increasingly defined and continues to be defined by the pandemic? I believe that we have just the right person to talk to about this and more. Our guest is truly one who shattered the glass ceiling in a previously male dominated industry. She's a pioneer who now counts more than 3 decades of experience in the automotive and real estate industries. She heads the Association of Vehicle Importers and Distributors, representing more than 20 automotive brands. Under her watch, Hyundai Philippines flourished and was recognized 4 times as Asia Pacific Distributor of the Year and 2 times as Global Distributor of the Year. In 2020, she and her team successfully launched the Chang'an brand in the Philippines despite the pandemic. She has also been recognized as a leading woman entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to give you the President and CEO of Hyundai Asia Resources Incorporated and Chang'an Motor Philippines Incorporated, and the President of the Association of Vehicle Importers and Distributors, Ms. Maria Fe Perez-Agudo. Hello, ma'am.
Good day, everyone, and happy second year anniversary, Velocity Business World. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. We know it's your vacation, so thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate it.
It's really still work from home for me right now. Yes.
Okay, but we're glad to note that you are also recharging.
Oh yeah. I think everybody should be recharging everywhere, anywhere they are, even if everyone's work from home, which as I was sharing with you, everybody has to find a spot and a time for us to re-energize so that we don't have that we can manage mental stress, emotional stress, given the fatigue that we're all undergoing right now.
Well said, well said. Well, our topic for today, Ms. Fe, is the track ahead or innovations for the future. Speaking of tracks, what's your take on how the Philippine automotive industry has progressed in the years leading up to 2 things? Number one, the implementation of the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion, or TRING, and of course the pandemic, which started last year. My question is, were we on track to realize the 500,000 units in sales a year before those 2 things happened? I know that a lot of us know that that's one of the fervent wishes of a lot of industry players and even observers like us in the media.
Let me start it this way. As far as I can remember, it has never been a smooth ride for the industry from the time I joined, no? In fact, a few months after we started doing it in the Philippines, we had to deal with the adverse global impact of the 911. And since then, it was really a slow and steady progress in terms of increasing the market base. The automotive industry only started to notice significant progress at the advent of the free trade agreements, which enabled more brands and models to penetrate the market. And of course, this coincided also with the rise of income among Filipino consumers, or the so-called middle class, um, I would say, empowerment, no? And it allowed a very responsive consumer base. I would like to look at it that way. And the industry has really been very volatile because there has been policy shifts and externalities. Of course, the recent, of course, was the trade law. Now we have the COVID, and now we have the safeguard tax. Now this has actually changed, no? The automotive landscape, and I know that there will be continuing changes that we are expecting and that we have to embrace. So prior to the pandemic, the industry has already adjusted to the new prices created by the trade law, In fact, it already hit 410,000 in 2019. We were excited because we were already nearing the 500,000 sales and that everyone was anticipating. However, the inevitable happened. We had COVID, and here we go again. We're back. The pandemic pushed us back roughly to that's 3 to 5 years. I'd say backtrack, not backtracking. So, and then we are now on a U-shaped recovery, and with recent policy directions, expect, of course, that there will be a slower path going back even to the 2019 sales level. Nevertheless, as you were asking, do we have a chance to hit back to our 500,000 annual sales goal? No? Of course, the projection is still within reach, and we have to remain positive that it can happen. And why did I say so? Because time and again, we have proven the resilience of the Filipinos, and that I would say our willpower to rise in every challenge that will come before us and that is thrown in every way. And with the new safety protocols that is in place, the Filipino people quickly adopted and implemented changes in the way we do things. And this is what I think I would say I have been so proud of being a Filipino and being proud, no? Seeing how our countrymen adapt to these changes. No? So I believe that if we can turn challenges in opportunities, is that another thing that we're very good at. We have become smarter. So the pandemic pushed us to become smarter and become more creative and to work within our limitations. So talking about getting back on track, we are in a business, we should learn few tricks here and there. And just like in basketball, we should be power forward players. We've been game changers, we've been trailblazers, so we're back again. We've got to show again that ability on both on an offensive or on a defensive position. So honestly, it's game on for us. And it is critical for us to recover losses and to ensure business continuity. Because in our hands, we need to secure also the safety of our employees at the same time, the employment of all our employees across all the network or all the industry as a whole. So that's my take on your question, Cap. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, thank you. I like your basketball reference. I'm a basketball fanatic.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of, I like it that you said, of course, everyone knows that Filipinos are very resilient, and I like it that you mentioned that as part maybe of how we were able to get from even below bottom, you could say, last year. No, but can you
Yeah.
also, yeah, but the 40% the 40% drop in sales last year, actually a lot of people were saying it could have been worse. What do you
Mm.
think? What were think that were the specific things that helped us sort of rise a bit from that? I mean, not it could have been 50, it could have been 60. What were the things you think that allowed us to realize some measure of growth, if you can call it that, last year, or performance last year?
If you would look up now, challenge upon challenge, we've seen our colleagues in the industry endure and even thrive by rethinking business models and adapting to the new situation. I would like to use the word space. Space was very important for us during when the lockdown happened. We lost that space. We lost that freedom, and so therefore, we needed to redefine the way we do things and the way we do business to minimize contact and that space, okay, doing the business in order to safeguard our people and our customers, and of course, to harness the power of digital technology. And probably this was one key why we were able to manage the decline. Take, for example, our Harris guidelines for protection and safety, or the GPS. When the lockdown was announced in March 16, we did not stop working. It took us only 30 days, and everybody was panicking. What are we discussing about? Hey guys, I told my people we've been talking about digital revolution for 2 years. This is it. This is now. We're facing it now. So the first thing that we did was to implement across all dealerships and facilities the Hyundai GPS, or COVID proofs. No, the entire value chain from facilities, processes, manpower, and operations, aiming to establish closer connections with our customers. So we struggle to get back on our feet, enabling us to be able to have that kind, to be able to keep that kind of communication with our customers. So I would say, in two words again, the space that we need to work on has been, I would say, has been successful because of the agility and the creativity, which has kept us from free falling. So again, it all boils down to our to the best ever characteristic of the Filipino, which is its human resource talent. Yeah.
Well said. Now, you mentioned the digital or digital solutions. No, I think it's something that Hyundai has also quickly adapted to right last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that many in the industry have been looking at as well, not just maybe as a stopgap for last year, but also sort of more like a longer term solution. But do you think,
Mm-hmm.
given our country's how shall we say it, situation with regard to probably connectivity and all that, do you think that the local market is ready for a greater digital ecosystem or these solutions that all the brands are putting forward?
Okay. Uh, I prefer to look at the bright side to the pandemic, okay, because it has forced us to break away from the traditional modes of marketing and sales, no, where a lot of physical contacts or communications and presence are needed. So, COVID or non-COVID, this is a long overdue step, honestly. We were already gearing up, as I was telling you. It took us 2 years to understand what is digital revolution. I did a lot of conferences with our team on this digital transformation and digital revolution. And then it was even as early as 2016, as far as I can remember, when we introduced the digitalization to the company. But at that time, the buzz of the industry was 4.0. That was 4 years ago. The interconnection of machines and systems has to be put as its optimum, where there should be efficiency and productivity. But today we're already at 5.0. It has even overtaken us. So we've taken technology even a step further so that we can have a more refined and seamless interaction with our customers and with our stakeholders. So there is now a need to reduce, if not eliminate, all forms of human contact to avoid contamination. And because of this need, it has radically altered the profile of the Filipino consumer. So people stay home, people only buy the essentials and shift to the digital channels. And we've had to understand learnings from this. Number one, we have to embrace that there is now a low demand for big ticket items, and that includes automobiles. So competition will be tougher in the years to come. And in these times when the buying market is shrinking, all car players are fighting for that reduced market size. So we have to be smart, as I've said, and be cunning with our game plan. And then today, consumers are really all looking for value. So because there has been contraction in the overall income, so consumers are now drawn to looking at products that might have a perceived brand value, but at a lower price. So this has been the trend everywhere in whatever industry or whatever product lines that we're offering. So with this kind of, I would say, mindset, we know that this trend will continue and this will again impact, no, the buying profile of the Filipino.
Uh, with regard to the greater, perhaps breadth of digital solutions that need to be put forth because of the pandemic, um, what does this mean for? You talked about like the evolving business, right? But what is the role now of brick and mortar showrooms in this new normal? Like, for instance, does it still make sense to establish large 3S facilities? How are you looking now at the physical locations for your brands?
Actually, that has also been a part of our I would say, planning session, about discuss in our planning sessions. No, do we really need three large 3S facilities? Not only because of this pandemic, not because we were looking at the pandemic, but we were looking at electric vehicles, electrification of vehicles. That was the key. But now, when the pandemic happened, I said we use the term digital, physical and digital, because your car still has to be serviced, right? So you still have to have that vehicle be brought to the dealership, following protocols or guidelines. So because of this, this pandemic has really accelerated the so-called digital phenomenon, because you have now to come up with innovative business ecosystem where you both bring together the physical space and the digital space seamlessly, so you could create that great customer experience. So what we did was we've already started doing the iSpaces, no? By locating in our, I would say, our showrooms, not in 3S facilities, but these are where the retail experience can be, I would say, present. Like, for example, we started putting them in malls or smaller spaces where they could have I would say, that immediate opportunity to experience our vehicles. And then we went online. The first time we had a tie-up with Lazada, and it was a hit among netizens. Buying our Accent and Reina, we were the first to go to tie up with our shopping. So we were already going through those digital channels even before the pandemic. And then we were the first to launch, as I've said, while there was the pandemic, we were already developing programs. So we were the first to launch the online portals for our sales and after sales. So we immediately launched the so-called homepage, or which is it's the so-called Hyundai online market experience. Where it's a platform that provides a very comprehensive experience, from vehicle selection to a bank approval, even up to the delivery to the comforts of their home. And then we launched also the so-called Hyundai Armor meaning an active response management operations and resumption service program, which also covers the entire vehicle maintenance process. That I would say it observes strict health protocols. So, which means it minimizes face-to-face contact through online booking and consultation. Through our technical experts, we have the so-called at your service, and even ordering Hyundai genuine parts through our hub, or the so-called unified Hyundai buys. So these were already in the pipeline, so it was not so difficult for us to push it. Um, it was just accelerated, I would say. So in line between the physical and digital experience, um, the users won't even recognize the difference, um, because today, by this time, I suppose Filipinos buy everything online, even now, even cars. So there is now a virtual. We are now making virtual experience videos, no, where our salespeople could show the cars actual behind, next to the person, and when the customer is on a virtual mode, no. So we are building our better normal on this so-called phygital experience, no. So this is how we're adapting, no, to that digital solutions. Cap, yeah.
Very well said. I think, yeah. So essentially, it's like a hybrid now. This phygital solution that you're saying, right?
Correct. Yes, yes.
It's about adapting to the new normal, and also while rationalizing probably physical locations. It really makes sense, no? Now, I'd like to go to the fact that you are now in charge of two very different auto
Yeah.
brands. Of course, that's good news for Filipinos, because we are now spoiled for choice. We have a lot of choices in terms of brands, and as you've mentioned, the competition actually among auto brands is very it's a very tight competition right now.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
how do you can you now tell us a bit about how you handle both brands and how can these both thrive at the same time in our local market? Can you share with us, for instance? I know that a lot of people are familiar, of course, with Hyundai being one of the leading brands in the Philippines, but how now do you position it against, let's say, Chang'an? Which
Mhm.
is a very new brand as far as Filipinos go. And let me
Mhm.
also say, you were very brave to have launched last year when it was the pandemic. And I've heard that,
Mhm.
yeah, it was a difficult market, but still you persevered. And yeah, please tell us about that.
Yeah. It's not easy, but as a business warrior, okay, um, you always have to keep, I would say, that sense of tenacity and resilience in you, in that leadership, so that people will continue to be inspired, and so that people will continue to remain positive, because that's the only thing that you could share, okay, at the moment. So both Hyundai and Shangan will run independently of each other. They will have two different paths. No two persons are alike. They will have their own footprints. So, as an entrepreneur up for a new challenge, and I am a strong believer in challenger brands. I have been in the industry long enough to spot a promising product. That is what made me a Hyundai advocate in the first place. So my close to 20 years of building a Hyundai would testify to it. Hyundai is making inroads to a more sophisticated market with the launch of spin-off brands like Genesis and Ioniq. Chang'an, on the other hand, is looking at an emerging market drawn towards stylish and connected vehicles that are value for money given their fully loaded features. And I was skeptic until I experienced Chang'an vehicles myself. The prospects of building a new brand from ground to up always excites me. You know, I always am an architect of business. So, as an architect, you really have to start from scratch. And that, I would say, gives me that excitement. Okay. And consider me as an advocate of these two challenger brands. Their presence in our country is our way of keeping the wheels of local business and commerce turning. And we continue to offer the market more options, and industry players should be there to offer more opportunities to our customers. And at the end of the day, the customer will decide what is in front of him, who is a better product with a better price, with a better value. So, but on my side, it is my responsibility to give the best offer to the customer.
Hmm. Okay, well said. Now, of course, we know that Hyundai, for instance, has been releasing over the years electrified models, and a number of those,
Mhm.
several of those, have made their way into the Philippines. There's also this sense that we are waiting for probably a tipping point in the Philippines, something that would make or allow more Filipinos to be open to this kind of transportation. What are you seeing with regards to the trend in the Philippines? Are we ready for these electrified
For
vehicles,
EVs?
and how ready are we?
Okay. Um, I believe in progress, and you cannot stop progress. So EVs will be here. Electric vehicles will be here. It's just a matter of time, and it has already started its progress and inroads in um, first-class countries. In the US, in Europe, in China, in Japan, in Korea, it has already been gaining market share. Filipinos are cost driven, and but we also appreciate value when we see them. We still need a lot of time to propagate the truth of how the social, environmental, and economic benefits of using EVs far outweighs the cost. Because right now it appears expensive, right? But the EV adoption will address severe air pollution and its threats to public health. It will also generate new industries like EV parts manufacturing and construction of charging infrastructure. And note that the Philippines is 5% of global nickel reserves and 4% of global cobalt reserves. So we will be part of that play. So, and these are important to the manufacturing of EV batteries. So, Filipinos would prefer EVs over traditional ICE-powered vehicles once we reach the tipping point, as you were saying, that will fully benefit the use of EVs. And as I've said, it is just a matter of time. The next question is how long, when. I wish I could have a globe here or and give you a definite answer. But there appears to be a growing consciousness among Filipinos of the economic and environmental benefits of making a switch to EVs because we have more than 3 million Filipinos out there outside the country who is also giving us the information, communicating with their families here that EVs is a right choice, no? So recent studies also would say that there was a study actually that half of the Filipinos would consider buying electric vehicles for their next car purchase because they feel strongly about climate change. And you know us, we are very updated when it comes to understanding how the environmental impacts. It's just really a matter of putting this act together. So if we just create I would say a conducive environment, no, and provide the charging infrastructure, the logistic. I mean, if we are ready with the logistical support, and we know that government support is much needed here, then EV will be a viable transportation mode in the country.
Mhm. Well said. Now you mentioned government, of course. Now we know that the train law also provided for excise tax relief for electric vehicles.
Correct.
But what do you think can government do further to maybe to create that environment you were referring to so that more people can get into it? Like what's the biggest difference do you notice from developed countries who are very savvy about EVs versus the Philippines?
Okay. First of all, I'm happy that there's already an EVAP or the Electric Vehicle Association of the Philippines. So there is that, I would say that will handle awareness, no? Okay, the second, of course, is support from government. The real support from government is to provide logistic infrastructure. We need charging battery stations. We need, I would say, incentive programs so that we could attract not EV manufacturing itself, but battery manufacturing. So when this becomes available here, more and more people, more and more investors would come in, and that would make the cost of EV more affordable. Okay, and yes, the trade law has provided exemptions, no, for EVs, and we were the first to take advantage of with that. We had the full electric variants of our Ioniq hatchback and the Kona crossover at the 2019 Manila International Auto Show. So we have this. We started creating that EV campaign through our models, and globally, Hyundai has been leading the charge in commercializing the new energy vehicles. So, as a matter of fact, last August 2020, the Ioniq sub brand was launched for their customer electric vehicles, and then last February they launched again another Ioniq midsize CUV. It was during a virtual world premiere event, no? So there's this Ioniq brand of Hyundai will be dedicated to battery electric vehicles, or the BEV, and the Ioniq 5 is setting the benchmark, and this will redefine electric mobility lifestyle with sustainable and, I would say, innovative features, no? Oh, and as for Shanghai is also is China's first auto manufacturer to roll out the first electric vehicles for volume production. This, I would say, has put me in a very good spot of Hyundai in the Philippines and now Shanghai in the Philippines. Shanghai has already produced 16 new energy models thus far, and they're number one in China when it comes to electric vehicle sales and production. And we were the first also to launch a China electric vehicle. It's the so-called the all-new AVID EV460, which we launched last November 2020. So that was a part to support the ALSVIN, the CS35, the CS75, and the CS95. So in other words, as industry players, so we've seen support. I've talked about logistical infrastructure support of government, but as industry players, we've start to bring in. We have to start continuing bringing in this electric vehicle models, launching it for even if it's just for awareness campaign, so that more and more and more and people will have to experience this electric vehicle. So as a matter of fact, it's only Shanghai that will have a 2025 Shangri-La plan, that they will have a fully electric product lineup by that year, no? So I think this is already happening. So, and you can never stop it, this electric vehicles, and it's here. Okay? Yeah. Yes, Cap.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'm glad to note that between the two brands, you're already positioned, or you're ready actually for that tipping point that we're talking about. Once we go full electric, kumbaga. So it's nice to know that both brands, both Hyundai and Changan, have that in their portfolio. Uh, um, are you also promising then, because you're saying that you're promising that we're going to get to see these models?
We've brought in already the I would say this EV models in the country, and we will continue. And as I've said, it's our responsibility to continue to educate the consuming public on the benefits of these electric vehicles for the moment. And I know that this pandemic will really hasten the acceptance of electrified mobility.
Hmm. Okay. Well, on another front, how is Avid doing during this time of the safeguard measure? Based on your March report, Avid grew marginally by 3% in February, with 5,401 units sold compared to January's 5,262. What's the outlook like for the companies in Avid for the year? Now, I know I've heard you say in an interview before that it depends, that your growth projections are really essentially tied to the safeguard measure. What's the best and worst case scenario that Avid is seeing?
Okay, best and worst. First, 200 days for the tariff commission to make a decision. Of course, um, the the best scenario there is that we will still achieve a 20% growth this year, with or without safety guard measures. Okay, that's the best scenario. The worst scenario, of course, will be we continue to have there will still be a flat growth this year, coming, of course, from a very low base last year of 2020. Okay, because we expect a slowdown, no, in these 200 days, waiting for the final decision. But at the same time, calibrating our options, no, as most industry players are doing right now, because the real impact, if this is passed, would still be felt probably by the last quarter of this year, when really we have already zero inventory of the old of the pre safeguard tax measure pricing. So that's going to be the best scenario from a positive of 20% growth. Worst case scenario is we remain flat in terms of this for this year. But as I've said, but I still go for the positive outcome, because uh, people will still continue to need mobility. People will still continue to look at vehicles that offers them the best value. So there's still a market for that. Yeah.
Mhm. In terms of categories, probably, are you seeing certain categories being growth segments more than others. Now, you mentioned earlier, of course, that being big ticket items, of course,
Mhm.
automobiles are sometimes last on the priority of families.
Mhm.
But having said that, the challenges also in public transportation are necessitating our countrymen to take a look at buying mobility, like
Mhm.
whether it's motorcycles, even electric scooters, and of course cars are also there. Do you
Mhm.
see something in play, or like what are the growth opportunities you think for the industry in terms of segments?
It's in terms of growth segments, the PCA, the passenger car segment A and B, would remain strong. Okay, because as I've said, if there is a decision on the part of the consumer to purchase, it will be based on, it will now be a consideration of value, right? Whether, and they will now go for low ticket items before proceeding with luxury, uh, I would say, choices, no? So, and then of course, the second that will also, I would say, uh, uh, benefit, no, from, or change, I mean, that will happen, that I could see, is a traction going to um, utility vehicles, because it will provide both the support for transportation of people and cargo transportation. So that's where the mobility would be, moving people from point A to point B. But then because of protocols, you now cannot bring in, you cannot do 100% capacity of, in all of this private and public transportation. So the balance will be, you need to put a balance in that situation. Yeah.
I'm,
So
I'm glad
that's
that
it. It's
you
a,
also
yeah.
mentioned.
Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I'm glad that you mentioned the modern jeepneys, because
Uh-huh.
yes, Hyundai has been working with lots of LGUs in this regard, right? Like you've been rolling out, you've been basically participating in the government's public utility vehicle modernization program with through your vehicles. Is that something you can you expect to continue doing throughout this year, at least 2021, to
Yes.
work with LGUs?
We have been, I would say, a frontliner, and I would say a driver of change when it comes to the modernization program. We've touched base with so many cooperatives around the country, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. We've continued to improve our prototypes of the modernized jeepneys. We've continued to assess our product in order to make it more affordable. We've continued to collaborate with Land Bank and Development Bank of the Philippines in order to support the approval of our cooperatives. And so far we're gaining good results. We're staying positive, and and we are on track in terms of our um, recalibrated targets. I tell you, if the government is looking at 200, more than 200,000 new modernized jeepneys in the next 5 years, we just have to drop it to say, for example, it's just going to be 50,000 in the next 5 years before it really reached to that tipping point again. But given that market size, no, the downsized market, there is still a share, or a play for uh, the modernized jeepneys, and this is also part of our, I would say, of our contribution to mitigate climate change. So from electric vehicles to modernization program, this would come into play, and slowly we are getting there. Because remember, this modernization program has been in the talk for the last 7 years. There's been so much resistance, both from, particularly from the public sector, and from those that will be affected. So it took us about 3 to 4 years before it gained traction. So yes, we will be in play in the modernization program this year, next year, and in the coming years, until it becomes the real king of the road.
Yeah, I like that. That's very well said. Now, before we wind up, uh, I'd like you to take the opportunity to tell the people out there what they can expect from Hyundai and Shangan this year.
Okay, there are a lot of expectations on the industry itself. Uh, Consumers will always look for the best product that offers the best value at the best price. Okay, uh, I think what both these brands could offer at the moment is still the best customer experience, because at the end of all of this, it will always be customer satisfaction that matters most to me. When you have happy customers, you will have happy stakeholders. You will have a happy brand. You will have, I would say, a brand that could become the choice. Okay, so we continue to improve all our programs, our processes, our systems, our communications, in order for us to achieve real customer satisfaction, redefining even customer satisfaction right now through digital channels. No, so expect us to continue to go for our drive for zero defects. Expect us to continue to go for drive to zero complaints. Expect us to continue to excite the public more and more with our new product offerings, with our new customer experience methodology, and of course with the new digital experience that will protect the customer, but then at the same time excite him to choose Hyundai and Shanghai.
Oh, thank you very much, and thank you very much for sharing your time with us again. Here, I'm wishing you all the best, and please do relax, ma'am. Wag puro trabaho.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I
So,
do. I climb the mountains every weekend, Saturday and Sunday. That's five
wow.
hours a day. So and it makes me, it really keeps my immune system strong, I would say, and keeps me refreshed all the time. That's why, and 4 a.m. for me is my time, is my the best time to think fresh. 4
Wow.
a.m. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone has a time. I don't know with you, Kap, what time? When
Well,
you're next.
I'm yes, that's right. I don't wake up that early, that's for sure. But
Yeah, okay. But you
I try
sleep
to get
late.
as yeah, I try to get as much sleep as I can.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay, so there you have it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The president and CEO of Hyundai Asia Resources Incorporated and Shanghai Motor Philippines Incorporated, and also the president of the Association of Vehicle Importers, Miss Maria Perez-Agudo. Thank you very much, ma'am. And once again, we'd like to thank Toyota Motor Philippines Corporation and Hyundai Asia Resources Incorporated for sponsoring these automotive one-on-one sessions. Our thanks also go to MG Philippines and Honda Cars Philippines Incorporated for supporting our print issue. Thank you too to our media partner, the Philippine STAR. Of course, thank you for joining us today. Keep safe and please watch for the next episode of our one-on-one sessions. On behalf of Business World Velocity, this has been Cap Maceda Aguila. We'll see you guys soon.